Hey Apex Agents, Mobius Y here with another video for Mass Effect Andromeda's multiplayer. This is part 2 of today's character build guide on the ultra-rare Angara Avenger. For part 1 of this character build guide, where I go over the exact skill setup and equipment and boosters that I'm using in this gameplay, check the link in the description below to check out part 1 so that you can see exactly what setup I'm using on this character. So, this game here, against Ket on Firebase Zero. I'm pretty sure I was doing a daily challenge in this game to earn some extra mission funds. So this wasn't a random setup, but nonetheless, it doesn't really matter. As I said in part 1, if you have not watched it yet, I don't really like this melee-centric build on the Angara Avenger. I think it's pretty linear and bland and kind of gimps the character. I do not think it's very viable on Platinum, personally. Even though you will see several times where I use melee attacks and even Avenger Strike on boss characters, like, for example, the Ket Ascendant and even some Ket Fiends, and you'll see that the fast melee attack can take decent chunks of HP off of either of these boss units, and it can do quite a bit of damage in a short period of time. So it's not entirely useless whatsoever. I just don't think it's entirely viable on a difficulty like Platinum in particular, where there's a lot more stronger boss units cruising around, like Blaze Hydras, for example. Those pop up pretty regularly on Platinum. So despite that, for some people, I can see this kind of a build being pretty fun, focusing more on the kind of knife in the back from the shadows kind of play style, as well as utilizing melee attacks, very akin to how a lot of the Vanguards play, but not just, not the same. They're kind of different. You're focusing less on just being a kind of in-your-face brawler against the enemies, where you can kind of tank quite a bit of damage, and you're just being a much more kind of cunning and stealthy kind of person, just incorporating more of that into the playstyle. So I can see how this could be appealing to some players. So you'll see in the gameplay, I do use the katana a fair bit, mostly just to try and regenerate some shields, as well as to dish out some damage, while Avenger Strike in particular is on cooldown, and if I don't feel like closing the gap to get in some melees in particular. I definitely recommend bringing a Siphon variant, whatever gun, on this character if this is how you're going to play it. I again recommend a shotgun, because the basic shotgun melee boosting mod, which is the Blade, has a higher melee damage bonus than the pistol melee optimizer. It's not by much, but it's just enough. It could be the difference between one-hit killing a basic mook either on gold or platinum difficulty, and simply leaving them on just a sliver of health if you Avenger Strike them from cloak. So it's got that going for it. So I highly recommend using a shotgun. So if you have a Siphon variant of something like, say, a Shorty or something like that, or you prefer using something like a Scatter Shot, or possibly even like a Rieger Carbine, by all means use those. The katanas, I don't think it's bad, I just don't think it's very good either. Once I've done the challenge with it, I definitely will not be using it on this character again. So use whatever works for you. I don't think I pulled out the Roserad at all for this particular gameplay. If I did, it was only just the once. So you don't really see me use it very much. When I pull it out, the melee damage bonuses get drastically lowered, so not only do the melee strikes do quite a bit less damage, but also the Avenger Strike will do significantly less damage. So I try to just keep it kind of kept away in order to maximize the melee damage I can do at all times. So with that being said, when do you want to use Avenger Strike? Well, spam it on the mooks. Pop your stealth grid, and then go kill something like a Ket Chosen. In the case of this game, go kill a Ket Chosen. You'll one-hit kill them. And, do that numerous times until the wave budget is mostly depleted, and then you kind of want to go after some sub-bosses. The problem with Avenger Strike is that even if a sub-boss that normally has shields has just a tiny sliver of shields, the shield gate of that sub-boss will negate almost all the damage from carrying over into health damage. So you can't finish them off, even if they have a tiny bit of shields and they're like half dead on health. It's highly unlikely that you'll finish them off in a single Avenger Strike, just with the way the shield gate mechanic works especially for enemies. It's extremely frustrating, so you do have to kind of pick your targets with who you hit Avenger Strike with, because you want to try and not just finish them off with Avenger Strike so that you can quickly escape, but also so that you can maintain your supply of power cells for Stealth Grid. Super handy that way if you kind of conserve your Avenger Strike on the tougher targets to either close the gap on them so that you can quickly hit them with a couple of melees and do lots of damage on them, which you do see me execute a few times, or to just kind of finish off something that's pretty weak. It's also a fairly handy escape on its own. Avenger Strike, while it's being cast, you're not necessarily invincible during the entire duration, but enemies tend to lose tracking of you. They will still sometimes hit you. Some of them will even melee you before Avenger Strike is fully cast, and you won't take damage most of the time during the middle phase of casting of Avenger Strike. But when the blow is landing, sometimes you'll take damage depending on if something actually gets a beat on you and shoots you there. But it's extremely, extremely rare when that happens. Most of the time they lose tracking on you, and you can kind of dilly about with impunity, finish hitting with your Avenger Strike, possibly finish off the enemy character that you just nailed with it as well. So that can work out in your favor. Like I said, the 1-2 of Avenger Strike followed by a melee is actually really quick. The melee on this character, I do really like it because it is fast. Despite the short range, it is still very fast, and with all these melee bonuses, it still does quite a bit of damage. It'll still take a few hits to actually kill something, and it does have kind of poor tracking because it has such short range, so if enemies are even just a little bit to your left or your right, it kind of has some poor tracking. It's not like, for example, the Batarian Gauntlet Punch, which tracks quite well, even to the sides. So you do have to be cautious of that. And it's very easy for either you yourself to lunge past a character with a dash and then miss your melee, or simply hit the melee and then they sidestep you. So in lunging forward, you actually miss your melee anyways because you went too far. You went too far fast with the lunge on your melee. So that can happen a lot. Just be cautious of that. I think that'll just about sum it up. I'll let the gameplay speak for itself, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of this game. It was a very quick one. Had some decent teammates, and the objectives went by very quickly. So enjoy the rest of the gameplay. Thanks very much for watching. This has been Mobius Y for Mass Effect Andromeda's multiplayer. Excuse me. As I said, for part 1 of this character build guide, if you have not seen it yet and you want to see how I had this character set up, how I distributed the skill points and what boosters and equipment I'm using, check the link in the description below to check out part 1 of this build guide. I hope to see you on the battlefield. Good luck, Apex.